Good morning from New York City. What's on my mind this morning in a big way is love, and in particular, celebrating love. My dear friend Eric is marrying Diego out on the North Fork of Long Island today, and I just feel so much joy. And I know I'm gonna cry, and it has me thinking about the beautiful memories I have of my own wedding. I married Marco Botton in 1988 in a tiny town outside of Milan. Back in those days, everybody was pretty much forced to go on vacation in August. So we chose September 2nd for our wedding because by requiring them to take an extra day of vacation, it meant that they really wanted to be there. Now, when we chose that date, I wasn't thinking about my parents, who at the time were running our stores in the Westgate entrance to Yellowstone Park. So that was high tourism season, and they decided not to come until one day I called home and I said, "Dad, someone's got to be here." And he sent my mother. And it was so beautiful because I was always much closer with my father, and her coming to walk me down the aisle in a very traditional Italian wedding was a turning point in our relationship. It was very unusual for a woman to walk a woman down the aisle. And my mother and I look very much alike, and the Italians just loved it. It was a very beautiful day. We got married in a tiny town, so we had the horse and buggy picking us up at the restaurant and lodge we were staying at, and they were taking us through the town to the chapel. And all of the people came outside of their doors and were clapping as we went by. And it was really funny because I had failed to tell my mother this Italian tradition. The guests wait outside of the chapel for the bride to arrive. And the chapel was up a little hill, and the horses had to start galloping to get us up the hill. And we have like 100 people standing outside the chapel clapping. And my mother started freaking out. She's like, "What do we do?" And I'm laughing because it was so sweet, because I was nervous. I was the bride, and my mother was just holding my hand so tightly, and she was so nervous. And it was such a beautiful memory that we made. Another beautiful memory I have of my wedding is that, well, I got married in the Catholic Church, and especially back in those days, there was no participation of the bride and groom beyond deciding which verses from the Bible would be read. I got married in 1988, and I wanted to read from the book The Poet by Khalil Gibran, and the priest said no. So I remember I wrote a letter to the priest, and I addressed the traditions in our country and how meaningful and important it was for me and Marco to participate in the design of our own celebration. And he conceded, and we gave out these scrolls as people walked into the church. And I think we read 3 poems from the prophet, both in Italian and English. And the Italians had never experienced a wedding like ours. It was really beautiful. So I'd like to end simply by saying that I know that for some people, marriage is a holy sacrament. And speaking for myself, I personally greatly value celebration and the power of ceremony, and the beautiful reminder that everybody gets when you bear witness to 2 people who come together to declare their love. So I thought I'd end today with the most important piece I read at my wedding, from Khalil Gibran, the prophet, on marriage. I think many of you know it, but I think it's always a beautiful thing to hear. Then Almitra spoke again and said, "And what of marriage, master?" And he answered, saying, "You were born together, and together you shall be forevermore. You shall be together when the white wings of death scatter your days. You shall be together even in the silent memory of God. But let there be spaces in your togetherness, and let the winds of the heavens dance between you. Love one another, but make not a bond of love. Let it rather be a moving sea between the shores of your souls. Fill each other's cups, but drink not from one cup. Give one another of your bread, but eat not from the same loaf. Sing and dance together and be joyous, but let each one of you be alone, even as the strings of a lute are alone, though they quiver with the same music. Give your hearts, but not into each other's keeping, for only the hand of life can contain your hearts. And stand together, yet not too near together, for the pillars of the temple stand apart, and the oak tree and the cypress grow not in each other's shadow. I'll end with that, and I'll end by saying, Eric and Diego, my hope for you is a lifetime of camaraderie, understanding, friendship, joy, mystery, forgiveness, compassion, and of course, a lifetime absolutely seeped in love. That's all for now. Have a wonderful weekend and love up your friends and family. Until next time, from my heart to yours.